What's up guys, I'm Jessekazam and welcome back to another Escape from Tarkov video. In this video, we're going to be doing a kind of general overview of recoil and ergonomics in Escape from Tarkov. You know, should you care about them, how they work in the game. Like most of my videos, this isn't intended to be a crazy deep dive where we discuss the absolute meta attachments and that kind of stuff. There's a lot of amazing content creators that have made all sorts of guides for all sorts of weapons and how to min-max them and stuff like that. This is more for new players to the game who maybe just don't understand how they work or keep hearing other experienced players talk about recoil or ergo and what to use and what not to use. So hopefully this helps clear that up a little bit. I stream Escape from Tarkov a few days a week on Twitch. All my links will be down below and I'd love to have you stop by. We've got an awesome community. We love to answer questions and help new players and just have a good time. So, but with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and dive right in. So let's just dive right into the recoil and ergonomics in Escape from Tarkov. So I've got two weapons right here. They're both M4s. This one on the left is kind of generally regarded as like a meta M4 right now. I could definitely change a few things, but it's basically a meta M4. And on the right, we have a stock standard just purchased from the trader, how it comes M4. So you can see ergonomics here and you can see recoil here. Escape from Tarkov, they've separated recoil into vertical and horizontal. I will say vertical recoil is the number that people normally look at to judge the recoil of the weapon. The horizontal recoil in this game, at least in my experience, isn't that crazy, even if it's not kitted down. But the initial burst of the vertical recoil is really where you're going to see and have see kind of the difference and have a lot of that trouble in weapons that don't have great recoil. And then up at the top here, we've got ergo. So obviously, recoil reduces the recoil of the gun. And the lower here, this 38 is going to bring down that vertical recoil jump a lot. Ergonomics, on the other hand, that affects a few different things. Mainly, it affects how fast you can aim down sights or ADS. So how snappy that interaction is. A lot of the really big, DMRs like an M1A that's heavy and chunky can feel like it takes forever to actually pull up and get a sight picture on an enemy. Whereas a really kitted out M4 can be really snappy, or any gun with high ergo. And the second thing it affects is how much stamina is being drained while you ADS. Because when you sprint, you're losing stamina, but also when you're aiming down sights, you're losing stamina. And if you aim down sights long enough and your stamina goes completely away, your character starts to move around and wave around a lot, which can be pretty annoying. Now, these stats, recoil and ergonomics, are affected by the attachments and all of the different components of the guns. Escape from Tarkov has the most complex and in-depth weapon modification system that I've ever seen in a game. I don't know that a deeper one exists in any game ever. As you can see, there's tons of different things. We could add more attachments and lasers and flashlights and stuff like that even to this gun. It is absolutely insane. And it can be overwhelming. The difference between these two guns, almost every single component was replaced other than the lower receiver. The upper receiver, the gas block, the buffer tube, the buttstock, the optics, the iron sights, the foregrip, all of that stuff can be replaced. And don't think that there's, there's only two ways to run guns: stock standard and absolutely meta kitted. There's so much in between here, but this is just to show you the difference between these weapons and the ergo and recoil differences. But you can basically double click on any of these and see. So the gas block added to ergo here. This foregrip did recoil reduction and added ergo. Normally your ergo comes from things like iron sights or pistol grip. This has 18 ergonomics. And then recoil is a lot of times going to come from the compensator or the foregrip. Like I could get a foregrip that does 4% recoil instead of 2. And stuff like that, but a lot of them do overlap, and there's a lot that provide both ergonomic and recoil benefits. And you can kind of just like mess around with that as you're kitting out the weapons and as you're kind of like modifying them. Using the flea market is a great way to just like sort by pistol grips that can fit on an M4 if you're using one, and start to look and find kind of like a price to performance ratio of what you want to do. So we're going to go into an offline rain here in a minute, but meta recoil, getting something like 38, I don't know how much lower I could get that, and this is probably the lowest you can get any fully automatic weapon in Escape from Tarkov, at least right now, and it can be pretty nutty. I mean, it can be an absolute laser beam, especially if you upgrade some skills that affect that as well. So the recoil control skill and the assault rifle skill also affect the recoil in Escape from Tarkov. So as you level up those skills, that's going to help. Even though the stats on your gun will stay the same, your PMC's ability to handle the recoil will get better. So when all those things get combined, it can be pretty insane. Ergonomics is something that I feel like a lot of people sleep on sometimes. When you have a high enough ergonomics, you can actually get to a point where you not only don't lose stamina while ADSing, but you actually gain stamina back while ADSing. And the repercussions of that are pretty insane. When you think about if you're on the run, being able to sit and actually rest, your character is gaining stamina while you're ADSing and you're scanning the area. That can be absolutely huge. And that if you are scanning an area, you're aiming down sights, and if you've been doing it for a long time, if you get ambushed or if you get shot at, being able to immediately just get up and run and not having worried about if you've completely erased on your stamina. I mean, if you've sniped an Escape from Tarkov, then you've felt that, where you've been glassing and you've been looking for an enemy and somebody kind of surprises you and you try to get up and run away and you've got absolutely no stamina left. Not only that, like we talked about, the ability to aim down sights quickly, especially in like CQB scenarios, when you're close quarters combat, being able to snap in and get a sight picture as soon as possible can be incredibly helpful. Now, the other thing, similar like how skills can affect recoil, another thing that affects the ergonomics is the weight of the weapon. So if you see up here, the 3.32 kilograms, 3.4, we can go down to a much bigger weapon here. This is, almost over twice the weight of that at almost 7 kilograms. So that's going to be something as well that plays into it. So you can try and get a gun light with as much recoil as possible, and you can see that. So if we take these weapons into the hideout, we can start to see the difference between, really high recoil and really low recoil. So we'll put this on full auto. So we'll start with the kind of standard M4. I'm not going to move my mouse at all. I'm just going to use the left click and that's it. So you can see that vertical recoil is pretty nutty. We can do that again at a farther target away. And it's just awful. So we switch over to the kind of like meta kitted out M4 and you'll see the difference here. There was still a vertical pull, but it kind of corrected itself. It pulled back down and we stayed on target basically the entire time. Obviously farther away, it's going to be a little bit worse. But we're not shooting up into the ceiling here. So that's kind of the difference there. Another note here, let me just back out so we can refill our mags here. Another thing that you can see is that affects recoil is the height of your character. So if we look here and we aim center of mass standing up, we started right here in the center, we ended up at his neck. And if we just crouch our character and we aim, right about here, you can see how much smaller that spread was. Our initial shot was down there, but it only went up a tiny bit as opposed to starting center of mass and then ending up around the neck or shoulder. And that gets even crazier if you go prone. You can't prone in the hideout, but if you go prone and you're shooting at an enemy, it significantly reduces the recoil of the gun. And I remember in a previous video that Veritas made, he posed, that's a great alternative to spending a ton of money, because of course you can combine those things. You can get best in slot for recoil, and then you can just lay prone and try and kill all your enemies, and it's going to be a laser beam. But if you're a new player and you can't get these just absolute meta attachments, then what you can do is utilize crouching and going prone whenever possible to actually gain a huge boost to your recoil. So we can also take a look at the ergonomics here. When I aim down sights, you know, we can see it's not incredibly long. The M4 comes with pretty decent ergo right out the bat, but you can see how much snappier this is with almost twice the ergo. So if I switch the camera over here and I run around the hideout for a little bit and use up some of my stamina, once I get back in here in the bottom left, you can see as I ADS, my stamina actually starts to increase again. And I'm just standing there and I'm gaining stamina. I'm not even having to crouch. I'm just standing up fully and I'm gaining that stamina. And if we switch to a bigger weapon, let's replace this M4 with this big old RSAS and do the same thing. We run around and waste some stamina. If I come in here, the opposite is going to happen. As soon as I ADS, I'm going to start losing that stamina, and you can see that. So that could be something that is incredibly powerful. You can throw a 4X or, you know, type of optic onto an M4 or any gun, an 8R, any gun that you can get really high ergo and, you know, flip it in semi-auto, and you can basically have yourself a DMR where you never run out of stamina. So those things are pretty insane. So that's basically it. Those are the main differences between ergonomics and recoil in Escape from Tarkov. You know, I'll let it be up to you how you want to play the game and how you want to utilize these mechanics. I will say, as a quick side note, oftentimes the maybe second best or third best in slot, you know, pistol grips or buttstocks or any of the attachments will oftentimes have almost the same stats as the meta ones and be significantly cheaper. You know, probably the absolute meta foregrip has 4% recoil reduction, and for less than half the cost you can get one with 3% recoil reduction. So just know that you know what I mean, there are more important things than Escape from Tarkov than, you know, the recoil and ergonomics of a gun. Map knowledge, good positioning, and good aim are always going to be, you know, what kill players. So you can a lot of times get away with really close to meta, or just not even close to meta, but really efficient weapons without having to spend all of the money on the parts. So that's basically it. That's how recoil and ergonomics work in Escape from Tarkov. That's how they affect your PMC when you're in a raid. Like I said, I'll let it be up to you what you think is fun and what playstyle. I definitely encourage you to try everything. You know what I mean? Like, there's so much out there. Try different builds. Try and have fun with it. If you want to play with meta, go that. But if you can't afford that stuff, there's definitely efficient kits out there. We could talk all day about top tier attachments, but I hope that this answered some of those questions and helped you understand these mechanics a little bit more. Thank y'all so much, as always, for taking the time to check out this video. If you have any questions about this, please drop them down below. If there's any guides you'd like to see me make here in the future, drop that in a comment down below as well. If you liked the video, think about hitting that like button and subscribing for more Escape from Tarkov content like this. I'm always trying to create content that helps shorten the learning curve of Escape from Tarkov and helps you get in your raids having fun as soon as possible. So thank you so much again for stopping by, and we'll definitely see y'all on the next one.